The galaxy had seen many wars. It had seen empires rise and fall. It had seen planets burn. It had seen species disappear. But it had never seen this. For the first time in galactic history, the Assembly apologized, and they did not apologize to a powerful ancient race. They apologized to humanity. The Grand Assembly Chamber floated above the star world of Luraxis Prime. It was a massive structure of crystal and silver metal. Inside, hundreds of alien leaders sat in a perfect circle. Some were tall and thin with glowing skin. Some were covered in scales. Others had long mechanical limbs. Every major species in the galaxy was present. In the center of the chamber stood one human, Ambassador Daniel Reyes. He stood alone under a beam of white light. His dark uniform was simple. No medals, no weapons, just a blue symbol of Earth on his chest. Around him, thousands of floating cameras recorded every second. The message was being broadcast across known space. Trillions of beings were watching. Reyes kept his face calm, but inside his heart was beating fast. For the past 20 years, humanity had been treated like a threat. When humans first reached the stars, they moved fast, too fast. They built colonies on harsh worlds. They created powerful warships. They refused to follow old galactic traditions. Other species saw them as aggressive, dangerous. The Assembly passed laws to limit human expansion. They blocked trade routes. They restricted human fleets near core systems. They called it precaution. Humans called it fear. Tension grew every year. Many believed war was only a matter of time. And now, the Speaker of the Assembly slowly rose. He was tall, with pale silver skin and deep black eyes. His long robe shimmered like starlight. His voice, when he spoke, echoed through the chamber. "Today," the Speaker said, "the Galactic Assembly acknowledges its failure." A wave of whispers filled the chamber. The Speaker continued, "We judged humanity without understanding them. We feared their strength. We feared their growth. We feared their will." He paused, "And we were wrong." The chamber went silent. Across Earth, cities froze. News stations replayed the words again and again. On Mars, workers stopped inside the great domes. On distant colonies, miners stared at small screens in disbelief. The Speaker lowered his head slightly. "On behalf of the Galactic Assembly, we offer a formal apology to humanity." The words fell heavy, historic, unbelievable. Ambassador Reyes did not move for a moment. Then he gave a slow nod. "Humanity accepts your apology," he said calmly. His voice was steady, but his mind was racing. This was too easy. For decades, the Assembly had refused to admit any mistake. Even small issues took years of debate. But this vote had passed in a single session. Unanimous. Every species agreed. That alone was strange. As the chamber filled with polite applause, Reyes noticed something else. Many alien leaders were not smiling. They looked tense, serious, almost worried, far from the Assembly world. In Earth's orbital defense station, Admiral Elena Voss watched the broadcast in silence. She did not clap. She did not smile. She leaned forward in her chair and replayed the last 30 seconds again. The apology looked real. The Speaker's voice showed no sign of deception, but something felt wrong. The Assembly never moved this quickly, never agreed this easily. Her tactical officers spoke quietly. "Admiral, human markets are rising fast. Outer colonies are celebrating. There are already plans for new trade agreements." Voss nodded slowly. "Keep watching deep space sensors," she said. "Focus on Assembly fleet positions." The officer looked confused. "You think this is a trap?" "I think," Voss said carefully, "that powerful governments do nothing without reason." Hours passed. Celebrations continued across human space. But in the quiet control room above Earth, new data began to appear. Assembly fleets were moving, not toward human space, but around it. Large task forces were repositioning near key jump points. Defensive formations were forming along the outer sectors. It did not look like an attack. It looked like preparation. Voss stood up. "Zoom in on Sector 9. The holographic map expanded. 3 Assembly battle groups were gathering near an empty region of space, a region that had no colonies. No trade routes. Nothing important. Why there? She whispered. Another alert appeared. 2 more fleets had moved near the northern rim. Again, not attacking. Just waiting. Back in the assembly chamber, the ceremony ended. Alien leaders began leaving in silence. Ambassador Reyes walked with a small human team toward their transport ship. One of his aides smiled. Sir, this changes everything. Reyes looked back at the empty chamber. Yes, he said quietly. It changes everything. But he did not feel relief. He felt pressure, like the air before a storm. On Earth, Admiral Voss stared at the growing list of fleet movements. It was too organized, too precise. Then a final report came in. A long-range sensor array near the edge of known space had detected something unusual. Very faint, very far away. Movement, large movement. Not human, not assembly. Unknown. Voss felt a cold weight in her chest. She looked back at the recorded image of the speaker bowing his head. We were wrong about humanity. Maybe that part was true, but apologies do not happen in a vacuum. They happen for a reason. Voss crossed her arms and whispered to herself, what if this apology is not peace? Her eyes locked on the dark edge of the galaxy. What if it's the first move? The stars outside her seemed calm, but somewhere in the darkness, something was coming, and the galaxy had just changed its position, not away from humanity, but around it. Admiral Elena Voss did not believe in coincidence. For 3 days after the apology, she barely slept. The galaxy celebrated peace, but she watched the silence between the stars. The assembly fleets continued to move, slowly, carefully, like pieces on a chessboard. They were not forming attack lines. They were building a wall, a wide defensive ring around human space. That made no sense. If the assembly feared humans, they would prepare to fend against them. But this formation faced outward, toward deep space, toward the unknown. Show me long-range sensor data again, Voss ordered. The holographic map shifted. Distant stars flickered. Trade lanes glowed in soft blue lines. Then the outer rim appeared. Dark, empty, but not quiet. Small energy spikes had been detected near the galactic edge. Too far to scan clearly. Too far to confirm. The signals were irregular, almost organic. Her science officer frowned. It could be natural radiation. It could be, Voss replied, but it isn't. Meanwhile, on Earth, world leaders were already planning new agreements. The president prepared to visit the assembly capital. News reporters called it the dawn of unity. Human citizens were hopeful. For the first time, they felt accepted, respected. But deep inside military command, tension grew. Another report came in. Several long-standing wars between alien species had suddenly ended. 2 rival empires that had fought for over a century signed a ceasefire in less than a week. Old trade disputes disappeared overnight. Border conflicts were frozen. The galaxy was becoming peaceful. Too peaceful. Voss stared at the data. This isn't diplomacy, she said softly. It's preparation. Across the stars, Ambassador Daniel Reyes returned to Earth. He was welcomed as a hero. Cameras followed him everywhere. But once he reached a secure government room, the celebration ended. Voss stood waiting. You don't look happy, Admiral, Reyes said. I'm not, she answered. She showed him the fleet movements, the defensive ring, the strange sensor readings. Reyes watched in silence. They said nothing about this, he finally said. Of course not, Voss replied. They didn't want us asking questions. Reyes crossed his arms. You think the apology was strategic. I think it was necessary. For what? Voss did not answer right away. She zoomed the map farther out, past the outer colonies, past normal travel routes, near the black stretch of unexplored space. There, she said. Reyes leaned closer. The sensor signals flickered again. Weak, but real. Have we contacted the assembly? He asked. Not yet. Why? Because I want to see how honest they are. 2 days later, a deep space human probe picked up something new. A transmission. Encrypted. Assembly origin. It was not public. It was not meant for humans. The signal was narrow and directional, aimed toward the galactic rim. Voss ordered immediate decryption. It took hours. Assembly encryption was complex, layered, but human AI was faster. Finally, a partial translation appeared. Phase 1 successful. Human trust established. Prepare outer defense lines. The room went silent. Reyes felt his stomach tighten. Phase 1, he whispered. That meant there were more phases, more steps. Voss felt anger rise inside her. They used us. But she forced herself to stay calm, continued decoding. More fragments appeared. Containment must hold. If breach occurs, fall back to intersectors. Human adaptability remains key variable. Reyes looked at her sharply. Key variable? They're studying us, Voss said. They've been studying us for years. At that moment, another alert sounded. A small human listening station near the rim went offline. No distress signal. No explosion. Just silence. The room grew cold. Send recon drones, Voss ordered. Minutes later, the first drone reached the station's last known position. The image that returned was unclear. Static filled the screen. But behind the static, something moved. A shadow. Large. Not metal. Not shaped like any known ship. It looked alive. Then the drone feed cut. Reyes stepped back slowly. What is that? Voss felt the truth forming in her mind. The assembly had not apologized because they feared humanity. They apologized because they needed humanity close, united, prepared, and trusting. Open a secure channel to the assembly speaker, she ordered. Priority 1. While they waited for the connection, the silence fell heavy. Reyes spoke quietly. If there is something out there, why not tell the galaxy? Because panic spreads faster than truth, Voss replied, and because fear breaks alliances. The holographic screen flickered. The assembly speaker appeared. His calm face showed no surprise. He had expected this call. Admiral Voss, he said, you have discovered our transmission. It was not a question. Voss's voice was cold. You apologized to humanity. Yes. You formed defensive lines. Yes. You spoke of Phase 1. A pause. Yes. Reyes stepped forward. What are you preparing for? For the first time, the speaker's expression changed. Not fear, not guilt, but wait. Something that nearly destroyed us once, he said quietly. Something returning from the dark. The room seemed to shrink. Voss held his gaze. You used the apology to gain our trust. Yes, and to unite the galaxy before the truth spreads. Silence filled both sides of the transmission. Reyes felt anger rising. You should have told us. The speaker's black eyes reflected distant stars. If we had told the truth before the apology, he said slowly, many species would have refused to stand beside humanity. Voss narrowed her eyes. Stand beside us for what? The speaker answered in a low voice. For survival. The screen flickered slightly as distant alarms echoed faintly behind him. The first outer defense line has just reported contact. Voss felt her pulse quicken. Contact with what? The speaker looked directly at her. With the swarm. And somewhere beyond the edge of mapped space, something massive was moving closer. Not fast, not loud, but unstoppable. The apology was not peace. It was positioning. And Phase 2 had just begun. The word echoed inside the command room. The swarm. Admiral Elena Voss had heard the name before, but only in rumors. Old military stories. Broken alien records. Half-deleted archives. Nothing clear. Nothing confirmed. Now the assembly speaker had said openly, the swarm has made contact with our outer defense line, he repeated. Behind him, warning lights flashed in red patterns. Alien officers moved quickly across his command floor. Voss kept her voice steady. Define contact. The speaker did not look away. 17 defense ships lost in under 4 minutes. The room on Earth went silent. 17 ships. The Assembly's outer fleets were not weak. They were some of the most advanced forces in the galaxy. Reyes felt a cold weight in his chest. What kind of weapons? He asked. No energy signatures detected, the speaker answered. No missile trails. No standard beam fire. Then how were they destroyed? A short pause. They were consumed. The transmission screen changed. Battle footage appeared. At first, it looked like static. Then shapes became clear. Massive forms moved through space. They were not shaped like normal ships. No sharp edges. No clean lines. They looked like living creatures. Dark, layered, covered in shifting plates that moved like skin. Smaller shapes surrounded the larger ones, moving in tight patterns like schools of fish. One assembly cruiser fired a full plasma burst. The beam hit the creature. The light faded. The creature kept moving. Then it opened. Not a hangar, not a weapon port. A mouth. A wave of dark matter spread outward like smoke. The cruiser disappeared inside it. No explosion. No debris. Just gone. The video ended. Silence filled Earth's command room. Reyes whispered, "That's impossible." Voss did not speak for several seconds. "How long have you known they were coming?" she asked the speaker. "Long-range probes detected movement 2 years ago," he said. "Slow at first, then faster. And you said nothing." "We needed certainty." "You needed time," Voss corrected. The speaker did not argue. Reyes stepped closer to the screen. "You fought them before?" "Yes." "Tell us." The speaker's eyes darkened slightly. 3,000 cycles ago, the swarm entered our galaxy. They did not negotiate. They did not send signals. They moved system by system. He paused. They harvest life. A chill moved through the room. They strip planets of biological matter. He continued. Oceans, forests, cities. They converted into more themselves. Voss felt anger rising. "How did you stop them?" "We did not win," the speaker said quietly. "We survived." The screen shifted to an old star map. Large sections were marked in gray. "Those systems were lost," he said. "Completely." Reyes stared at the map. "That's thousands of worlds." "Yes." Voss crossed her arms. "What changed last time?" The speaker hesitated. "They reached the inner sectors. Stronger resistance. United fleets. And they stopped advancing." "Why?" "We never understood." The words hung heavy in the air. "You never understood." That meant the swarm had not been defeated. It had chosen to leave. Or pause. On Earth, new alarms began to ring. Another human listening post had gone dark. Then another. Voss turned to her officers. "Pull back all deep-range probes. Activate defensive alert level 2. Reyes looked at her. "You believe they are heading for us." "I believe they are heading for everything." The speaker's image flickered again. "There's more you must know," he said. Voss narrowed her eyes. "Say it." "We ran predictive simulations," he continued. "Millions of outcomes. And in 94% of scenarios, the galaxy falls." Silence. "And the other 6%? Reyes asked. The speaker looked directly at him. "Humanity survives." The words felt unreal. "Why?" Voss demanded. "You adapt faster than any known species," the speaker replied. "Your military doctrine changes mid-battle. Your engineers redesign ships in weeks. Your AI learns without limit." He leaned slightly forward. "You are unpredictable." Reyes almost laughed. "That's your reason?" "It is not just theory," the speaker said. "In controlled combat tests against simulated swarm patterns, only human commanders develop successful counter-strategies." Voss understood now. The apology, the sudden peace deals, the defensive lines. They were not signs of surrender. They were signs of positioning humanity at the center. "You needed us respected," she said slowly. "Yes." "You needed the galaxy to follow human command when war began." "Yes." Reyes felt anger rising again. "So you apologized to make other species accept us?" "Yes." "Without telling us." The speaker's voice lowered. "If we had told the full truth before unity was secured, fear would have divided the assembly. Some species would have fled. Some would have attacked humanity preemptively." Voss exhaled slowly. "You gambled the galaxy on a political move." "We gambled it on you." Before she could respond, a new alert cut through the room. A live feed from the outer defense line. Assembly ships were firing in all directions. The darkness was thicker now. The swarm had arrived in greater numbers. Large biological vessels moved like shadows across starlight. One of them split open. Hundreds of smaller creatures poured out. They crashed into the defense line like a tidal wave. Energy shields failed within seconds. Ships were pulled apart, consumed. A final transmission from an assembly captain came through. They are not slowing. Static, then nothing. Reyes felt his hands tighten. How long before they reach human space? He asked. The speaker answered quietly. At current speed, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. For the first time since the apology, fear spread openly across Earth's command center. Voss stood straight. Then phase 2 begins now. The speaker tilted his head slightly. You accept? No, Voss said firmly. We prepare. She turned to her officers. Recall all fleets. Cancel diplomatic visits. Full war readiness. Across Earth and its colonies, silent orders began to move. Shipyards powered up. Factories switched to military production. Training simulations increased. The galaxy had believed the apology meant peace. Now it understood the truth. It meant war. Far beyond the outer rim, the swarm continued forward, endless, hungry, and this time it was not turning away. 3 weeks. That was all the time the galaxy had. The news of the swarm spread, slowly at first. The assembly tried to control the message. They called it a border threat. They told citizens to remain calm. But fear cannot be hidden for long. Outer colonies were already gone. Refugee ships filled trade routes. Entire alien fleets were retreating toward inner sectors. For the first time in history, the Galactic Assembly requested something unthinkable. They asked humanity to lead. Admiral Elena Voss stood inside the newly formed United Command Chamber. It was built in orbit above Earth in record time. Alien officers from 20 species filled the room. Some had glowing eyes. Some had mechanical implants. Some towered over humans. But all of them were silent, waiting. Voss stepped forward. She did not wear medals. She did not make a speech about glory. She activated the star map. The swarm's advance glowed in red. System after system had fallen. They are not attacking randomly, she began. Her voice was calm. They follow energy density. High population. High biological mass. They moved toward life. An insect-like alien commander shifted uneasily. We have reinforced our strongest worlds, he said. Voss shook her head. That's your mistake. The room stirred. Another commander spoke sharply. Defending core worlds is logical. It is predictable, Voss replied. She zoomed the map outward. We cannot outnumber them. We cannot outgun them. So we will not fight their way. She turned to her officers. Show simulation Echo 7. The room darkened. A battle simulation appeared. In the first model, alien fleets formed a defensive wall. The swarm hit it head-on. The wall collapsed. Total loss. Murmurs filled the chamber. Then the second simulation began. Human fleets split into small, fast groups. They avoided direct contact. They struck from behind. They targeted the smaller swarm units first. Then they retreated before counterattack. The swarm slowed. Its formation broke. What is this tactic? One alien asked. Disruption warfare, Voss answered. We do not try to stop the wave. We break its shape. Another commander frowned. But you abandon worlds. Yes. The room fell quiet. We evacuate populations early, Voss continued. We deny the swarm easy biomass. Empty worlds give them nothing. The idea was shocking. Most species fought to defend territory at any cost. Humans fought differently. They fought to win. Reyes, now acting as political liaison, watched carefully. You are asking the galaxy to trust human strategy, he said. Voss nodded. Yes. A long silence followed. Finally, the assembly speaker's hologram appeared above the chamber. The assembly grants humanity full tactical authority. The words fell heavy. A new era had begun. Orders spread across the stars. Evacuations began on threatened worlds. Transport ships moved day and night. Human engineers worked beside alien scientists to modify shield frequencies. Human AI systems were shared openly. It was a first true alliance in galactic history. Then the swarm reached the first united defense zone. The battle took place near the star Helion 4. Instead of a single massive fleet, small human-led strike teams waited in hidden positions. Alien commanders watched nervously. The swarm arrived like a storm. Dark shapes blocked out starlight. But something was different this time. Human ships did not charge. They vanished, using fast jump drives. They appeared behind the swarm's outer layers. Precision strikes targeted the smaller biological carriers. Explosions of green light filled space. The swarm reacted slowly. Its movements were powerful, but rigid. Alien fleets followed human instructions. Strike, retreat, strike again. The swarm lost formation. For the first time, it hesitated. Cheers erupted in parts of the command chamber. But Voss did not smile. "Do not celebrate," she said. "They are learning." And she was right. Within hours, the swarm changed patterns. Smaller units began guarding larger vessels. Ambush attempts became harder. "They adapt," an alien officer said nervously. "Yes," Voss replied. "So do we." She ordered something unexpected. Deploy the Ghost Fleet. A group of old human ships moved forward. Damaged hulls. Outdated weapons. Alien commanders looked confused. "Why send weak ships?" one asked. Voss answered simply. "They are bait." The Ghost Fleet advanced directly toward a major swarm vessel. They fired continuously. The swarm responded aggressively. Large biological ships turned and consumed the Ghost Fleet. But that was the goal. While the swarm focused on the bait, hidden human bombers targeted a massive central organism deep inside the formation. A glowing structure pulsed like a heart. "Target that core," Voss ordered. The bombers released experimental gravity charges. Space itself twisted. The core ruptured. For the first time, a massive swarm vessel exploded. The shock wave rippled across nearby units. Alien commanders stared in disbelief. "It bleeds," one whispered. "Yes," Voss said quietly. "It bleeds." The swarm began pulling back from Helion 4. Not defeated, but slowed. A small victory. Across the galaxy, hope flickered. Human strategy was working. But in the quiet darkness beyond the battle zone, something larger moved. A shape bigger than any vessel seen before. Sensors struggled to measure it. It was not just a ship. It was command. Back in United Command, a new alert appeared. Deep scans detected a massive energy spike within the swarm ranks. Reyes looked at the data. "What is that?" Voss stared at the readings. Her face hardened. "That," she said slowly, "is their answer." The swarm was not just reacting. It was preparing something new, smarter, stronger. And this time, it was coming directly for Earth sector. Humanity had taken command. Now the real test was beginning. The apology had united the galaxy. The first battles had proven humans could fight. But the swarm had not yet shown its full strength. And somewhere in the endless dark, a greater mind had noticed humanity. And it was watching back. The victory at Helion, for it did not last long. For 2 days, the swarm pulled back. It regrouped. It changed formation. Then it did something no one expected. It stopped attacking outer colonies. Instead, it moved in a straight line, toward Earth sector. Admiral Elena Voss stood in the United Command Chamber, staring at the updated map. The red wave no longer spread wide across the galaxy. It narrowed, focused, like a spear. "They are ignoring high biomass targets," an alien analyst said nervously. "They are bypassing easier systems." Reyes looked at Voss. "They're coming for us." Voss nodded slowly. "Yes." A new transmission arrived from a long-range probe hidden near the swarm center. The image was unstable, but it showed something massive, a structure unlike the others. It was not shaped like a creature. It was shaped with purpose. Layered armor plates formed a protective shell around a glowing core. Smaller swarm vessels orbited it like guards. Energy pulses moved in steady rhythms. "It's coordinating them," Voss said. "The heart." Reyes asked. "No," she replied quietly. "The brain." Silence fell across the chamber. For weeks, humanity had assumed the swarm acted on instinct. a hive driven by hunger. But this was intelligence, and it had chosen a target. Earth. A signal suddenly burst across every military channel. Not coded, not encrypted, direct. The room lights flickered. Screens filled with static. Then an image formed, dark, moving, a close view of organic texture. Then a sound, low, vibrating, not quite a voice, but structured. It sent patterns of sound and light that human AI quickly translated. The first words appeared on screen. Adaptive species identified. No one breathed. More symbols formed. Primary resistance source confirmed. Reyes felt his chest tighten. "It knows," he whispered. Voss stared at the message. "Yes," she said. "It knows exactly who we are." The signal continued. Assimilation priorities shifted. Then the transmission ended. Across alien fleets, panic spread. "It speaks?" one commander said in disbelief. "It thinks," another added. Voss turned to the room. "Calm down." But even she felt the weight of it. This was not a mindless wave. This was strategy. The swarm had studied them, just as humanity had studied the swarm. Hours later, the first offensive line near Earth engaged. Human and alien fleets fought side by side. The swarm no longer attacked blindly. It targeted command ships first. It aimed for communication hubs. It cut supply lines with precision. "They're countering our tactics," an officer shouted. On the main screen, 3 human strike groups were surrounded. Voss clenched her fists. "They're isolating adaptive units." The swarm had learned the pattern. It was eliminating flexibility. One alien fleet commander panicked. "We must retreat to inner orbit. If we retreat now, they gain momentum," Voss replied sharply. Another explosion filled the screen. A human cruiser split apart under pressure from a massive biological ram. Reyes watched silently. Every loss hurt, but something else bothered Voss more. The swarm brain ship had not entered battle. It stayed behind, protected, observing. "It wants us to exhaust ourselves," she said. "Then strike." She made a decision. Prepare Operation Nightfall. The room shifted instantly. Alien commanders looked uncertain. Reyes stepped closer. "That was our last resort plan." "Yes," Voss said, "and this is our last line." Operation Nightfall had one goal: strike the brain directly. It was risky, dangerous, and possibly suicidal. A small fleet of the fastest human ships would break through the swarm lines, not to fight, to distract. Meanwhile, a stealth squad would approach the brain vessel from behind using experimental cloaking tech. If they could destroy it, the swarm might collapse into chaos. If they failed, Earth would face the full force alone. The mission launched within hours. Human ships moved first. They attacked aggressively, hard and loud. The swarm reacted immediately. Large sections of its forces turned to intercept. Explosions filled space. Ships on both sides vanished in fire. Hidden behind the chaos, 5 stealth vessels slipped through. On board one of them stood Commander Aisha Rahman. She knew the risk. She also knew Earth was watching. "Distance to target?" she asked. 10,000 kilometers, her pilot replied. The brain vessel was enormous up close. Its surface shifted slowly, like breathing armor. Energy pulses moved across its body in waves. It felt alive and aware. Suddenly, the stealth field flickered. "Energy spike detected," the pilot shouted. The brain ship had sensed them. Organic tendrils extended outward at incredible speed. 2 stealth ships were caught instantly. Crushed, Rahman did not hesitate. Full power to forward drives. Her ship accelerated directly toward the glowing core. Weapons fired. Minimal effect. The core began to pulse brighter. Back in command, Voss watched the feed. "Come on," she whispered. Rahman made her final choice. Overload the reactor. The crew looked at her. No one argued. They understood. "If we get close enough," she said, "the blast might crack that shell." The ship shook violently as biological weapons struck its hull. Distance closed rapidly. 5,000 kilometers. 3,000. 1,000. Warning alarm screamed. Rahman looked at the glowing core ahead. "For Earth," she said softly. The screen went white. A massive explosion tore across the brain vessel's outer shell. Energy rippled through the swarm formation. Several smaller units drifted without direction, but when the light faded, the brain ship was still there, damaged, but alive, and now, angry. Across the battlefield, the swarm responded with full force. Its entire formation surged forward toward Earth's inner defenses. Voss felt the weight of loss. Operation Nightfall had failed. Partially, but something else happened. For a brief moment, when the blast hit, the swarm fleets hesitated. Their movements lost perfect timing. They felt it, Voss said quietly. It hurt them. Reyes looked at the damage reports. We cannot survive another push like this. Voss stared at the advancing red wave. Earth's orbit was a final line. Behind it were billions of lives. She took a slow breath. Then we change the game. Reyes turned toward her. How? Voss's eyes hardened. If it wants humanity, she said, we'll give it something it doesn't expect. The swarm brain had identified humanity as the key threat. Now humanity would do what it did best. Be unpredictable. And somewhere inside that massive living ship, the mind behind the swarm adjusted its calculations. For the first time, it had underestimated its prey. Earth was no longer celebrating peace. It was preparing for impact. From orbit, thousands of ships formed layered defense lines. Human vessels stood at the center. Alien fleets held the outer rings. Civilian transports rushed toward Mars and deeper colonies. The sky above Earth glowed with engine trails. Admiral Elena Voss stood in the command chamber, watching the swarm advance. The red wave filled half the tactical display. The brain ship was at the center, damaged, but still in control. It's accelerating, an officer said. It wants to end this quickly. Reyes stood beside Voss. We don't have enough firepower left. No, Voss replied calmly. We don't. She zoomed the display inward. Earth, its orbit, its moon, and something else. A thin ring of satellites, recently repositioned. Alien commanders had questioned it earlier. Now they understood. This is not a defense line. One whispered. Voss shook her head. No, it's a message. Weeks earlier, after decoding the swarm transmission, human scientists had discovered something strange. The swarm did not only consume matter. It communicated through energy pulses across subspace. A network, a shared mind. And that network depended on rhythm, on synchronized signals between units. When Ramon's ship exploded near the brain vessel, it disrupted that rhythm for 3.7 seconds. That small disruption had slowed the swarm. What if the disruption was stronger? Wider? Global? Activate Project Echo, Voss ordered. Across Earth's orbit, the satellites powered up. They were not weapons. They were amplifiers. Massive signal generators tuned to the same frequency the swarm used to think. Alien officers looked confused. You plan to jam them? One asked. No, Voss said. We plan to speak. The first swarm ships entered firing range. Outer alien fleets engaged. Explosions filled space again. But this time, human ships did not rush forward. They held position. The brain vessel moved closer. It opened its armored shell slightly. Energy gathered, preparing to strike Earth directly. Now, Voss said, the satellites fired. Not beams, not missiles. A pulse, a massive, synchronized wave of pattern energy. It matched the swarm's own communication signal, but it carried something new. Human code, human mathematics, human unpredictability. The pulse hit the swarm front lines. Ships slowed. Formations wavered. The brain vessel reacted instantly. It tried to counter the signal. But Project Echo adapted in real time. Human AI modified the pulse every millisecond, changing rhythm, changing structure. For the first time, the swarm was not receiving clean thought signals. It was receiving noise, conflicting instructions. Alien commanders stared in shock as swarm ships began colliding with each other. Some drifted off course. Others fired at wrong targets. Their network is destabilizing, an analyst shouted. The brain vessel pulsed brighter. It tried to override the interference. It focused directly on Earth. The sky darkened as it moved into close range. Reyes felt the weight of history in that moment. "If this fails," he began. Voss finished the sentence. "There won't be a second chance." The brain ship released a massive energy wave toward Earth. Human defense shields flared. Cities below watched the sky burn with light. Project Echo strained under pressure. Power levels dropped rapidly. "We cannot maintain the pulse much longer," an engineer warned. Voss made her final decision. "Open all frequencies." The room froze. "That will expose our entire system," an officer said. "Yes," she replied, "and it will expose them too." Every human ship, every satellite, every station joined the broadcast. Instead of one pulse, millions, each slightly different, each slightly chaotic. Human thought patterns, music waves, mathematical sequences, even random data streams. A storm of signal noise flooded the swarm network. The brain vessel shuddered. Its outer shell cracked further. For the first time, the translation system picked up a broken signal from the swarm. Interference uncontained. The pulse intensified. Swarm units began drifting lifelessly, without clear network rhythm. They could not coordinate. The brain vessel tried to retreat, but human fleets were ready. "Target the fractures," Voss commanded. All remaining ships fired at the cracked sections of the brain's armor. Missiles, plasma beams, rail cannons. The combined fire hit the weakened core. The brain vessel convulsed. Energy surged violently. Then it ruptured. A massive explosion tore through the center of the swarm formation. The shock wave spread outward. Swarm ships lost coordination instantly. Without the central mind, they became scattered organisms. Alien fleets pushed forward. One by one, remaining swarm vessels were destroyed. Hours later, silence returned to Earth's orbit. The red wave was gone. Debris floated where the brain ship had been. In the command chamber, no one spoke for several seconds. Then cheers slowly filled the room. Alien commanders bowed their heads toward Voss, not in fear, in respect. Reyes looked at the tactical map. "It's over," he said quietly. Voss exhaled for the first time in what felt like weeks. "Yes." Across the galaxy, news spread quickly. Humanity had not just survived. It had saved the galaxy. Days later, the assembly gathered once more. This time, there were no hidden plans, no secret phases. The speaker stood before the chamber. "Humanity was once feared," he said. "We believed their aggression was danger." He paused. "We were correct." Soft murmurs spread. "But we misunderstood the direction of that danger." He turned toward Ambassador Reyes. "Humanity is dangerous to those who threaten life." He lowered his head. This was not the Assembly's first move. It was our admission. "We needed you." Reyes answered calmly. "You should have trusted us from the beginning." The speaker nodded. "Yes." Outside the chamber, human and alien ships now worked together to rebuild law systems. The galaxy was different, not because of fear, but because of unity. And on Earth, Admiral Voss stood alone, looking at the stars. The apology had not been peace. It had been preparation. The swarm had seen humanity as the key variable. It was right, because humans did not fight with strength alone. They fought with change, with chaos, with ideas. And in the end, that was stronger than hunger. The galaxy would remember this day, the day the Assembly apologized, and the day humanity proved why.